Okay, welcome to the Town of Lenox Select Board meeting, Wednesday, August 30th, 6 p.m. It's our regular meeting. No announcements from the chair, and we have CTSB is recording, and that's the only one recording tonight. So first thing we'll do is accept the minutes of August 9th.
I move to approve the minutes from the August 9th meeting of the Lenox Select Board.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So next is Citizens Open Forum. So is anybody here to speak at Citizens Open Forum? Harvey? Stand right up, and Harvey Waller is here to...
How you doing?
The opportunity to talk. Harvey Waller, and excuse me, I live at 31 Prospect Hill Road, Stockbridge, in Orleton Farm. We live and breathe horses down there, and this will be the 10th time, I believe, that the Berkshire Coaching Weekend has come to Lenox and Stockbridge. It's the 6th, October 6th, 7th, and 8th. And what it is a group of coachmen. It's different from the Tub Parade. These people come from Virginia, Pennsylvania. They come from far away to be with us in a very historic vehicles. So it's a very, these are turnouts that are done to the nines. And it's something to see. So it's very social for these guys to come up and to be part of us. So we'll just let the selectmen know that we'll be on the roads. There's about 15 of us that will go to on the first day. As a matter of fact, here is a schedule. On the first day, we go to Elm Court, and we invite the general public to come up and look at the carriages at 12 noon. The coachman will have lunch up there, and we invite the general public to come up and view the horses just like we've done in the past. The second day, we actually go through Stockbridge, and we invite the general public to view the horses as they go through Stockbridge, and to come early and view the horses, shop and dine, and watch the horses as they go through town. And then on the third day, we go to Highland Farm, and out at the ice cream parlor, we'll go through the backside of Highland. And so we invite everyone for 12 noon to come see the horses out there, get an ice cream cone, tour the stable, tour the cow barns. It's a very family kind of a event. So, in just a brief history, 100 years ago, the coachman, St. Lenox, was the place to come with your coaching for. Skimmerhorn, Harris Farnstock, Sturgis, Havens. There were the two Havenses. These were all very New York Coaching Club people, and it was the place to come. So because of that, Mary and I started this in 2004. So it's just some place to come and keep the tradition going. So, that's about all that. We'll be on the road, and we invite the general public to come see us.
Terrific. That sounds like a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I missed the weekend that you had at Orleton Farms. It was a couple weeks ago, and so that was kind of a bummer. So now I'm going to be able to see you guys.
We look at this as one of those eclectic Berkshire events that we used to have many years ago. We publicize it somewhat, but not a lot. We have fun among ourselves and the townspeople as well. So.
Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Oh, thank you.
It's a great event. You've been to it a bunch of times. It's and thank you for keeping the history going.
Yeah, well,
that's what it takes. So really a great thing. I assume you've talked to the police chiefs.
We will. First we come here, and
then
we've been to Stockbridge with their police, and then we'll talk with Lenox's police to be on the road. We have our own patrol as well that works with the police. So, as I say, this will be our 10th time doing this. So, we think we got it. Okay. Well, if there are any questions.
Oh, good stuff. Thank you.
That's great.
Okay. All right. Well, good night. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see, Harvey. Thank you. I did go to the event down there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
it was really
great?
nice.
Yeah, the weather was good, as I recall.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for Citizens Open Forum. So now we move into the consent agenda. And I'll just read that. Donation acceptance for the police department. Chief Steve O'Brien is seeking permission to accept a monetary donation to the Lenox Police Department. Donation acceptance at Community Center. Director Darlene McCauley is seeking permission to accept monetary donations to the community center. And then we have a one-day wine and malt license for the Lenox VFW, and they're seeking a one-day wine and malt license for Saturday, September 30th, from 4:30 to 10 p.m. at St. Anne's Parish. Certified bartender will be present, and that is for their lobster dinner. And a one-day all-alcohol license, 5 Senses Events and Design is seeking a one-day all-alcoholic license for Saturday, September 16th, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Ventford Hall. And a certified bartender is present, and all the paperwork is in order. And then we have a one-day all-alcoholic license for 5 Senses also. Events and Design is seeking a one-day all-alcoholic license for Friday, September 22nd, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Lenox Community Center. A certified bartender is present, and all the paperwork is in order. And then we have a one-day all-alcoholic license for Norma Kirby. She's seeking a one-day license for Friday, September 15th, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Lenox Train Station. A certified bartender will be present. And then we have a sign request. The Lenox Library Association is requesting to place temporary signs advertising the Lenox Library Association book sale from Friday, October 6th through Monday, October 9th. They've documented the places where they want to put the signs, and it's another annual event. And now this is great right here. An appointment. We'd like approval to appoint Mindy Moran to the BRTA Advisory Board. I'd like to put a hold on that. Maybe a couple of you want to speak. You might want to speak. And then we have a sign request for the Lenox Library and the Lenox Community Center. They're seeking to place temporary signs in advance for the Rise Together for Safety and Justice event, Thursday, September 14th. And then we have another sign request, the Lenox...
I think it's the same thing. I think we got double.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, it just got in there twice. So that's it for the consent agenda. If I can get a motion on the consent agenda, except for that one item that was held.
Okay, move to approve the consent agenda as presented, except for the hold.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And then I want to thank Mindy for volunteering or being heavily recruited, whichever it was, to be the BRTA Advisory Board rep, having been the rep for that for about 3 years. It's not a heavy lift, but it is not it's not one that should be ignored. And it was just becoming too much to balance some of the regional Southern Berkshire board attendance, because they meet on Wednesday nights, with these quarterly meetings that they have. And it's so great that Mindy's going to be doing it, because as the general manager for Canyon Ranch, she would have an appreciation of people needing to get to work, not only at Canyon Ranch, but at Miraval and the other very lovely establishments in the area that might have people that work there that don't have their own cars. The BRTA schedule is not super aggressive and needs to be tweaked every now and then. And so having someone who's really got the interests of the people who are using the BRTA is really fantastic, and I'm very thankful that she's volunteered.
I couldn't have said it better. No, that's it exactly. It hits the nail on the head what you just said.
I agree. I can't top that.
Yeah, so I'm very psyched.
Yeah,
I
excellent.
have to abstain from this for obvious reasons, but I think she'll make a good.
She'll do okay.
Yes,
You'll keep her in mind.
indeed.
So if I can get a motion for that?
A move to approve the appointment of Mindy Moran as the BRTA Advisory Board rep.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. So, general business. Discussion regarding content and timing for a special town meeting, tentatively scheduled for November 2nd. The town manager has several articles he needs to, or he'd like to put on the warrant, so if he can update us.
I'm in no position to demand.
Yes.
So at your pleasure. The tradition that we had attempted to establish before COVID, and now are trying to reestablish of the 2 town meetings at relative 6-month intervals, would call for a special town meeting, the fall special town meeting, to be on Thursday, November 2nd. So if we're looking just at the schedule before we start contemplating what sort of business the town would want to conduct at that meeting, that would require this board, because it's a special town meeting, to post within 2 weeks of the meeting, as opposed to the typical 1 week, 7 days for the annual town meeting that's in May. Special town meetings are treated differently. So that would place a burden on the board to have a warrant prepared and voted on October 18th for a posting on the 19th, which would be the following morning. And to the extent that there are zoning bylaws or appropriations requests, we would have to give requisite time considerations to the planning board and the finance committee to conduct their required review as well. So we're really looking at an end of September having something pretty substantial for both of those bodies to react on and hold their required meetings. So it's the second to last day of August, so September's going to place a lot of demands on our time, so we wanted to get this on the board's radar.
Can you give us a sense of the types of things that you think will be articles for that meeting?
So I have a couple of things that I would like the board to consider. First and foremost is, well, I would not necessarily foremost, but the Special Act Charter Review Committee completed their report quite some time ago with recommendations on reforms to the structure of the government. Recall that we operate under a special act that was passed in 1991. There's a lot of things that made sense in 1991 that didn't make sense in 2019 when the review committee completed their report. Pandemic happened. We've been playing somewhat of catch up ever since, and I think it's time to revisit, if not at this town meeting, then certainly by the annual, the structural changes that they were looking to make. And I keep looking over at Mary Beth, because before she was on the select board, she was on the Charter Review and Special Act
Which just made me think,
committee.
if you could circulate
Yes.
Special Act to us again, that would help all of us.
The other item, 9 months ago when we got overwhelming support for both the public safety building and the wastewater treatment plant at town meeting, we had prefaced those votes with a financial plan that involved a lot of things, one of which was the creation and appropriation to debt service stabilization account to buffer on any against any bad outcomes for some of the assumptions we made around revenues. So we would need an article to both establish the stabilization account that requires a vote at town meeting to set it up, and then I would suggest we make some sort of pro rata appropriation that matches what we said we were going to do, and we should have free cash certified in the not too distant future from the state, so we'll know in real dollars in a couple weeks what we have available to dedicate towards that. And we'll also have a better accounting of where it's all been derived from, both of which were integral to our proposing of the funding strategy for the two projects. So I think we should consider doing that at the special, because sooner rather than later. We've discussed the concept of administrative approval for a lot of special permitting. That would require an active town meeting. That would help us move some of the, less, I won't say contentious, but the less involved or more simple special permit processes through a staff review and approval. And then to the extent that the ZBA would have to act on any of those, it would truly be in an appeals capacity, not in a review where you have to get 5 members present, and then also reconsidering what constitutes the membership on the ZBA itself as well, because that's been a challenge in terms of.
Is there still more work to do on that?
There's a little bit more work to do on the second half of that. I feel like we're almost there, but certainly, the administrative approval is. I mean, let you and the voters speak for yourselves, but I don't see anything.
We need to take some pressure off the zoning board. They just
and that's the real intent here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also to better serve the residents when they need to have a permit issue.
Do you anticipate any planning board or ZBA or other, bodies having any articles they want to?
Yeah. So, if we were to do anything through a zoning bylaw amendment, it would require a planning board hearing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a planning board proposal, though it often is. Could be a proposal from the select board, but they're required to hold hearings in their role as advisor to town meeting.
I'm just thinking, I think we heard loud and clear through the repeated messages in Citizens Open Forum that while it appears that it's become a regular thing to hold a special town meeting in the fall, people don't want to have us throw up new wireless bylaws or new signing bylaws or things like that at that meeting because they should be heard by a larger body. Now, I somewhat disproved that because the attendance differential between special and spring wasn't nearly as great as people were assuming it to be. But nonetheless, I would hope that there's not like a meaty thing, and I'm not aware, being the liaison, that there's going to be. On a different note, what occurs to me, Chris, is you've got it tentatively now November 2. If you thought we could spare some more time, I know we run into this, like, what's going to happen to the attendance if it gets too close to the holidays type thing. I think November 2 might be a little early, but I think that if we had a little more time, the 2 main projects that we're working on, the public safety building and the wastewater treatment facility, people will have nailed down a lot better clarity on their budgets. So if we need any re-asks or adjustments to what's being budgeted for those projects, we'd know about it by then. And also a question. In both of those projects, we've talked about some 30B appropriations of things that might be long lead items. Does that require any town approval process to do?
No, because we're not dealing with disposition, and that's the only, and we wouldn't be entering into wouldn't be a multi-year service contract. We're looking at procuring a
piece of equipment. Switchgear.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So no, I think the answer to that is no.
Okay.
So I agree with what you said about the fall special town meeting. I don't want too meaty of a thing on. Usually don't want that to be the place where we do the big things. It should be more it should be more what it was designed for. When we started this was for Department of public works projects, so we could put things out to bid, get it done bid early in the year, so they could start working in the spring. So I assume you're talking with DPW and planning, or did you just not get to it yet?
It's the last, but not the most insignificant item on my list.
Well, so that was going to be one of my other questions. Do you think that you and Billy will be ready to have an approximation for Church Street by then?
That is the charge and the mandate.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
As the liaison to the Affordable Housing Trust, I am going to be bringing forward a proposal from the Housing Trust that we get an appropriation in the amount of about 25% of the short-term rental taxes that have been collected over the last fiscal year. And if we could take 25% of that and put that into the fund balance of the Affordable Housing Trust to help people who are trying to purchase homes when they move into Lenox. We have a first-time home buyer program that's been in existence for a very long time, I'd say like 12 years. We've managed to assist 15 households. We generally have helped them with a grant, if you will, that is on a declining balance over 5 years of $10,000, but that doesn't really help people very much anymore. So the trust has just bumped that up to $20,000. Still, it only helps a very small fraction of people because you have to be under 100% of area median income to qualify for this particular financial grant. But it would really help if we could add to the fund balance with the short-term rental
I
taxes.
see, other towns are trying to get creative in the way they do things. Are other towns doing this?
Yes. Other towns are doing the similar things. I think Great Barrington is doing something with short-term rental taxes as well.
Yeah.
Williamstown is talking about it.
Even Great Barrington's doing some over $1 million sales or some kind of thing, a certain percentage, aren't they, Chris?
That's the
Stockbridge.
Somebody was, I read that.
I've been working in other states. It's a transfer and recordation tax concept that's fairly standard. But that's not what.
No, it's not.
That discussion is happening in the
What I'm saying is, people are trying to get creative in how they can raise money for that.
Because you have to have more than one tool in your toolbox to kind of attack this housing problem.
Yeah.
So, we were just thinking that it might be constructive, and this is not like a forever ask. This is this fiscal year ask, because we're asking the taxpayers to appropriate a sum of funds, as you would for anything in town, to be put into a specific fund balance. So
Is there an estimation of how much that would be?
it's around, we don't have the figures from DOR right now, but it's in the ballpark of about $100,000.
So helping 5 families?
Helping 5 families.
So the argument that's being made there is that there's some, hard to quantify, but there's some essential nexus between short-term rental and housing.
Because the less expensive
To state the obvious, right?
We sat here and heard from an individual who was displaced because of an investment purchase to create short-term rental.
Yeah, so more than reasonable to estimate that is at least at the 25% level, right? So, and we're able to bifurcate that revenue, which is derived from traditional lodging versus short-term rental lodging. So, and it's not, at least for the immediate past fiscal year, it's not something that would deviate from the other plans that we have established for fund balance. So it seems to fit certainly with the times. That being said, town meeting has to act on it. It's not something that we can do as an internal accounting measure, right? So,
Well, having heard your list, and I don't know if you're complete with your list, because I asked you about Church Street when you hadn't necessarily gotten to it yet, but
I put it under the general rubric of paving, knowing that Church Street is the
We knew it.
Is the big one, yeah. Right.
Yeah, so anyway, I mean, other than maybe wiggle room in the date, when do we have to determine this date?
Legally, it's got to be, you got to make a decision no later than October 19th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, you said the approved
Have I
warrant
done
was
the
the
math right on that? I
18th.
think I have.
Yeah, you said the approved warrant was the 18th for the meeting.
For posting on the 19th,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
But that's for November 2.
That's for a November 2, and then, so move your critical path.
It's got to be 2 weeks prior.
Got to be 2 weeks prior, yeah. And allow time for finance and planning to the extent that articles relate to them. Got to give them time to do their work.
All right, so,
Planning is fully aware of these dates, or they will be made aware of these dates in case they.
Yeah. I think it's ingrained in their psyche.
Well, they know
at
it's
this
coming,
point.
but an
Yeah.
actual date, you know,
Yeah,
something.
right. Yeah.
I guess another way to ask my question is, is there a process by which we don't set it at November 2 tonight and do some research with our various liaison committees and our 2 principal contractors on the 2 projects to see would some extra time allow you the better ability to have either your article prepared or your budget finalized?
There's no legally binding action that commits us to November 2 tonight. Yeah, in fact, it's this conversation that's being had right now that is what prompted me asking the chair to include it on the agenda, so that we can vet out issues like this that might require more time.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, this is tentative and.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
thinking
will
I'm
be
gonna,
adjusted. I think it's, except for a few things that you brought up, I think you can put it together pretty well. There's not,
Yeah.
it seems like it's, stuff that can be done.
I don't think there's anything that looks like a big controversial,
No. No.
banner carrying.
So we'll
Thank you.
just, we'll move forward with that, the town manager just get working on it and keep us
I'll work with you,
apprised.
Chris. I'll be checking in with Jim and Dave on the 2 respective projects to see, how much more will they know budget-wise and if there's anything that we need to do.
Okay, so that's that for that. So new and old business, any board members have to raise any new or old business for future discussions? We're good? So we're going to move into executive session. Before I do this, I just want to talk about the calendar. It says our next regular meetings are Wednesday, September 13th and Wednesday, September 27th. Mary Beth has conflicts on both of those dates. So maybe depending on the workload and, how much is on our business meeting, we can adjust that.
The 20th would be great.
The 20th,
Yeah,
okay,
that would work.
Okay. Okay, Chris, you'll remember that, or Danny, you remember
So we're
that?
moving the 13th to the 20th?
Well, let's not say right now, because we don't have to schedule it right now, but let's just see what the workload is,
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay, so executive session. Now, the board intends to convene an executive session to discuss strategy with respect to ongoing litigation, PLH Vineyard Sky LLC. Discussing strategy in open session may adversely affect the town litigation strategy. The board does not intend to reconvene an open session afterwards. So it's a roll call vote
Yep,
for
roll
that.
call vote. Mary Beth Mitz, aye.
Ed Lane, aye.
Neil Maximilian, aye?
Max Sure-Fi?
Okay, so we'll move into the other room and see folks possibly in a couple weeks.
Great.
Thank you.